Michael Carnahan, please begin.
Shenaniganz Podcast.
What's up, everybody? It's Money Mike Carnahan coming at you live this Sunday night, this beautiful Sunday night, as we finally get back to the Shenaniganz Podcast. We had some scheduling issues and all sorts of things going on, especially election coverage. If you guys follow our other Talk Radio 49 podcasts here on our platform, man, we've had a ton going on, and we're certainly glad for you guys sticking along for the ride. But we're back tonight to wrap up our Star Wars retrospective. I'm pretty excited about this, and we've got a lot to get to. So without further ado, I'll start bringing in my co-hosts first. One of my favorite co-hosts I've ever done a podcast with, this man from California, Mr. Duck. Duck, how you doing today?
What's up, man?
Hey, I cannot complain. I'm certainly in a happier mood after we finally got some resolution yesterday.
Right?
Goodness gracious. Well, and seeing how I am in such a good mood, I'll even do this for our second co-host here on this show. So we'll go ahead and play a little intro music. California. Okay, we're cool. What's up?
How's it going, man?
Hey, I can't complain. How was I guess I would say how was your week, but we've been seeing each other just about every night on one form or the other on a podcast update. So, how have you been since Friday evening when we last signed off?
So yeah, I'm happy. The guy I wanted to win won. And it's still a great big giant smorgasbord of shit as far as like how everyone's reacting to it. But, you know, the nightmare of the experiment of a reality TV show running the country is over. And that just makes me really happy. So, yeah, I've got no complaints today.
Well, gentlemen, I'm going to be hokey here for a moment, and I'm going to pose a question, and I want you guys to or pose an answer, and I want you guys to give me the correct question, so to speak. Alex Trebek is the question. What would you say the answer would be?
Greatest game show host of all time for 1,000.
Oh, there you go. Well, ladies and gentlemen, unfortunately, the world lost Mr. Trebek today after a long battle with pancreatic cancer. I believe they said he just came out with it not too long ago, but he's been battling it, I believe they said, all the way back to 2013. So a long, lengthy battle here. So without further ado, we've got a little tribute here from the Washington Post, and we'll talk about our thoughts on Mr. Trebek when we get back.
I've been around a long time.
Here is the host of Jeopardy, Alex Trebek.
For 35 years,
Jeopardy host Alex Trebek graced our TV screen. 5 nights a week, fans were treated to pitch-perfect delivery.
Oh, yeah. In 1988, pre-Fargo, she was Stella in A Streetcar Named Desire, don't you know?
Witty banter.
You are either adamant, and the singer is Adam Ant. Our writers were getting cute. What is you doing? What is you doing, baby? Is that what?
Too live right now.
What is you doing, baby? Well, I'm responding incorrectly.
And trademark facial hair, or a lack thereof. Before hosting Jeopardy, the Canadian got his start back home during the 1960s.
In what part of the world would you find a wombat? David Rycroft, Monarch Park. Australia. Australia's right for 5.
After a string of hosting gigs on U.S. network TV.
Thank you very much. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Hi, and welcome to Concentration.
He ultimately took over at Jeopardy in 1984. He was actually the show's second host. His mainstay status was cemented when the Guinness Book of World Records awarded him the title of most game show episodes hosted by the same presenter in 2014. In the years since, that number climbed to over 8,000 episodes. But Trebek's legacy went beyond being the face of America's premier game show. His unmistakable monotone is in a ton of TV and movies. Sometimes in the background.
Milky colored from glacial clay when entering Lake Geneva, this river is clear blue upon exiting. Jim?
What is the Rhone?
The Rhone, good for $1,000. You are $500.
And other times.
Name Thomas was made famous in 1880 for this household invention.
What is the fork split English muffin?
That's absolutely right.
Front and center. And even when he wasn't technically playing himself.
And here's your host, Alex Lebek.
It was still unmistakably him.
Hello, everyone, and welcome once again to Riddle Quest.
Are you ready out there?
Ready! What is a torque wrench?
You're absolutely right. And Dee Dee, you don't have to phrase it in the form of a question.
Okay.
Most of all, it was the moments poking fun at his man with all the answers persona on Saturday Night Live.
You buzzed in.
No, I didn't.
Yes, you did.
Yeah, well, that's your opinion.
I hate my job.
That solidified his standing in the pop culture zeitgeist.
And so this was the final Jeopardy. And what a ride it has been.
Alex in
Wow.
Afro was a treat.
Do what now?
Seeing him in the Afro was a treat.
Absolutely. It certainly was. But, you know,
That skit on Saturday Night Live has always been one of my favorites.
it's synonymous. I mean, come on now.
I've absolutely loved it. You know, I mean, the guy playing Burt Reynolds changes his name to Turd Ferguson. You have the other guy that is playing Sean Connery, and he's saying stuff like, I will take 8 tet for 100, Alex. And he's like, no, that's appetit. Come on. You know.
My favorite one was when Sean Connery and somebody actually posted a meme saying this is the conversation between him and Sean Connery. Well, Trebek, it's nice to see you here. I fucked your mom last night or something. And I was just God damn it, that's so beautiful.
Well, that comes from the Saturday Night Live skit where,
right.
They asked him the one question, the sounds that the dogs make, and of course Sean Connery is like, rough, just like your mother likes it, son of a, you know.
I mean, I'll tell you one thing though that I just learned from that piece. I never knew that he wasn't the original host of Jeopardy. I mean, I can't. Can anyone name the original host of Jeopardy without Googling? I mean, let's be honest. He's synonymous with that. Television show.
He's synonymous in the Zeitgeist right now. So the Boomers, Generation X, the Millennials, some of Generation Z know who he is, right?
Right.
That's it. He will be forgotten. Just like Bob Barker. Bob Barker is synonymous to The Price is Right for us. We all grew up with Bob Barker. Anytime there was a sick day, we were watching The Price is Right. I mean, Plinko, come on, you know. But how long has he been gone from the show? Almost 20 years now?
Has it been that long? Did Drew Carey take over in 2000?
Drew Carey took over quite a few years ago.
Lord. I mean, it's still weird for me to sit there and tune into.
When I see Drew Carey, it's not right.
Channel and I see Drew Carey, and I'm like, oh, yeah, Bob's not around anymore.
Right.
It is crazy. It is one of those things that, yeah, I mean, people are, maybe people will eventually get to the point where the Price is Right is going to be synonymous with Drew Carey once we start all dying off and things like that. But
maybe,
man, I mean, still a legacy, I think, that Trebek and, somebody like Bob Barker will leave,
Well, the thing that's cool about Trebek is, in the late 70s, early 80s, game shows were everywhere. Mm-hmm. When you turned on your television Monday through Friday from, 8 o'clock until 10:30 or 10, there was nothing but game shows, all three networks. And that was really cool.
Right.
And then the talk shows started to take over that. And they moved all of these game shows to the afternoons. That's where that's where Jeopardy, was placed and stayed. And that was the staple. You had the Jeopardy and the Wheel of Fortune, right?
Yeah, they were back to back, and I believe it was like Evening News, Jeopardy, Wheel of Fortune, or maybe it was Evening News, Wheel of Fortune, Jeopardy.
Right, and I was never a fan of the Wheel of Fortune. Like whenever what's his name dies, I'm just not going to give a shit. Pat Sajak. I don't care how long he's hosted or anything. Dude, I just don't care. Vanna White. Yeah, she turned the letters. Yeah, I'm gonna be more sad that she died than I will, Pat Sajak. I don't know why. I don't like the guy. But Alex Trebek,
Vanna was with each other.
Maybe.
Yeah. They were feuding. They were beeping on each other for a while, and said
I think so.
Trebek offered him to come onto the show, and so did Pat also responded by offering Alex to come onto the show. So yeah, I don't know, because Trebek should have had an ego with a lot of folks. Same thing happened with Regis Philbin, and Trebek sort of made an off-color comment towards Regis when he was hosting the Who Wants to Be a Millionaire. And Regis also offered, well, why don't you come on the show if it's so easy? And Alex said, why don't you come on?
Right.
So he did tend to beef with folks. He was like 50 Cent of game show hosts.
Well, I think you kind of hit the nail on the head there. I think it is the ego. Well, why don't you come on my show? Because it's bigger. It's a bigger deal. No, my show's a bigger deal. Type of situation. So yeah.
Well, I mean, when you look at the game shows as a whole, Jeopardy would be way up there as far as the intellectual shows.
Oh yeah, you're talking Jeopardy. Yeah. I would say Wheel of Fortune is probably third. I think until it ended, and now I think it's actually getting a revival. Who Wants to Be a Millionaire was getting up there. Yeah, that's pretty much the three when I think of game shows that are.
Well, I mean, that's
synonymous.
That's the three most synonymous right now. Yeah, the most popular right now. But I mean, if you look into the history of the game show, they've revived some, several times over the years too. I mean, Who Wants to Be a Millionaire? Yeah, it's just been revived again for the third time. But
Joker's Wild,
Wild, the $100,000 Pyramid, Sale of the Century, Whammy. Remember that one? Pressure Luck.
Was that Big Bucks, no whammy?
Yeah. I mean, that was a big deal when I was a kid. Big Bucks, no whammies. Big Bucks. Yeah. They've tried to bring that back. Heck, there's a game show network on right now, right?
Yeah, and I think they revived Pressure Luck and some of the old 70s game shows. So I mean, definitely.
That's definitely a Generation X thing, that we grew up with those shows on television. And then, our grandmothers or mothers, whoever was watching us at the time, like especially during summer, they'd be watching their soaps. That's when we'd go outside and play.
Right.
And then we'd be outside till 5, 6 o'clock at night, or until it got dark, just was our thing.
Dude, I remember sick days. You were babysat by
Yeah.
little Regis and freaking shit like that. Like, yeah.
Right.
I
And before VHS, VHF TV, we had channel 16 and 38 here in Arkansas. Before that, you were stuck with 4 channels. You had PBS, ABC, NBC, CBS. That was it. If you didn't have cable, and most of us didn't because we live in rural areas. And then when you got the VHF channels, 16 and 38, you got a lot of really cool reruns, like the Lone Ranger, the Cisco Kid, Dick Van Dyke Show, I Love Lucy, the Batman television series, Star Trek. They played everything that was in syndication, which was kind of cool. It was like Nick at Night before. Yeah, do you remember that?
You thinking about Blazing Saddles?
No. There was a show called the Cisco Kid that ran at the same time as the Lone Ranger, and it was in syndication. And here in Arkansas, they played it, and it was this Mexican guy, and it was Cisco and Pacho. And it was campy and stupid, but it was. You're a kid, and you got nothing else to watch. Yeah, you're gonna watch it. Yeah, most of us from Generation X, we were kind of babysat by television. So yeah,
absolutely. So definitely want to give our thoughts, prayers, good vibes, whatever you believe in. For Alex, his family, obviously grieving with this loss.
The loss. Yeah.
America, obviously it's a different grieving, but America's obviously grieving. I just thought about this while you guys were talking. 2020 gives us one good thing. I remember thinking last night, holy shit, 2020 gave us one good thing. And then, of course, it fucks us over this morning. Like, come on now, bruh. 2020 can't be good for a full 24 hours. Come on.
Dude, we still got 2 months left. We're going to lose a lot more people. We're going to have some fucked up shit happen.
As long as Betty White stays alive, we have accomplished our mission for another year.
For 2020, yes, I agree. Yes, because there can only be one, and it is Betty White.
There you go.
She is the Highlander.
Well, gentlemen, we're going to go ahead and get started back into our retrospective. We have episode 7, The Force Awakens. So we will go ahead and pull that trailer up right now.
Who are you?
I'm no one.
I was raised to do one thing. But I've got nothing to fight for.
Nothing will stand in our way. I will finish what you started.
There are stories about what happened.
It's true. All of it. The dark side. A Jedi. They're real.
The Force. It's calling to you. Just let it in.
Okay, gentlemen. So the original release date of this film was actually December 18th, 2015 in the entire U.S. It was released 4 days earlier in L.A. The actual gross of this film, though, $2.068 billion, once again, with a fucking B, $billion. Harrison Ford, again, Han Solo, Mark Hamill as Luke, Carrie Fisher as General Leia, Adam Driver as Kylo Ren. Once again, an all-star cast, a huge moneymaker, blowing everything out of the water that we've seen previous. $2.068 billion made on this film, and I believe it's got two different budgets sat here, but the actual net was $258.6 million. So, with that being said, they fucking did pretty good on this film as far as actually getting people to come out and see it. We'll start with you, Duck.
I mean, I guess when it comes to these particular sets, to me, it was trying to recover the glory of what the. Pardon?
I think you may have been getting a little bit of feedback because I heard it as well. I think it was just you talking.
I just think this was an attempt for Lucas to recover. It was a little too late for me. So most of these ones were a stumble, and it seems the more people hated it, the first one I didn't, I was like, Second was getting better for me, and then the last one I liked the most, and everybody hated that the most.
Okay. Now, I do see that, a lot of these were, a lot of it was filmed between Ireland and the UAE in this movie, so, or United Arab Emirates, excuse me, in this film. Sean, what did you think about Episode 7, The Force Awakens?
Well, the hype was definitely there. Everybody, you saw that preview and everybody was like, whoa, what? But then a lot of us got cautious because we did the same thing with Episode 1. And it's like, the guy that made the trailer for Episode 1 made that look like a phenomenal movie, and it wasn't quite phenomenal. So I'm going to reserve myself a bit. Now, as far as ticket sales and everything, yeah, they blew it out of the water, right? The story, I thought that the story was okay. The problem that I had with it, no Lando. Pivotal part of The Empire Strikes Back, Return of the Jedi. He should have been there, in this film. Wedge Antilles, there's another great character that should have been there. A lot of people didn't like the fact that Luke wasn't in it until the very end. If you haven't seen it, then you'll actually see that he's in it. In the very end, sorry, spoiler alert. But Carrie Fisher, Harrison Ford's character. Again, here's another spoiler. Han Solo dies in this film. Which upset a lot of people. But it's like, Harrison Ford wanted Han Solo to die way back in Empire Strikes Back.
Right.
Wish that would have happened. That probably would have made that a more memorable film for a lot of people. I don't know. I enjoyed it though. I thought, as far as as a story goes, I thought it was good.
Well, and as far as a actual rating goes, it was pretty much universally accepted by the critics. They enjoyed it. 92% on Rotten Tomatoes, a 92% rating on Rotten Tomatoes. I've not seen the film, so once again, I leave it up to you guys as far as this goes. Would you say it's overall, almost a perfect film, so to speak? Duck, I know you said you didn't like it very much.
I don't know about
give it a scale up to 100%. What would you say you would give it? Give it a grade.
80.
80. Okay. That's higher than what I expected you to say.
I'm trying to be nice.
I'm a real harsh critic, so I would give it a 50, a solid 50.
Damn. Okay. Hold up. You just said you liked it. This man said he didn't like it, and he gave it a higher grade than you.
But you have to see what I hold The Empire Strikes Back, that second film in the original franchise. I hold that as the greatest of all the movies. So that would be 100. Mm-hmm. Okay. Now, as far as special effects, that pushes it up there. Okay, maybe I'll give it a 60. Okay, because the special effects were phenomenal, and there wasn't a Jar Jar Binks. I was happy about that. But the story that could have been there just wasn't. And what pissed me off, I guess, what lowers that score for me is how the lady that took over Lucasfilm says, well, we don't have any material to really create a great story. And it's like, hold up a second. You got 30 years of fucking books, just books alone, not just the comics, not just the video games, books with great characters, great novelization. You could have taken anything from that and created any kind of story that you wanted. And they chose to erase all of that and just start fresh.
Now, Sean, are you referring to fanfic? Because the reason why I asked...
No.
Oh, because I was about to say, if you're referring to fan fiction, that has nothing to do with the original Star Wars. The reason why I say that they wouldn't use that is you'd have to pay the person that created the story.
No, I'm talking about all the novels that
came out. I don't agree with that.
Right. No, I'm talking about all the novels that came out from about 1992 all the way up until the premiere of this movie. Okay, there was like 60, 70 novels that were written all about the timeline in between Return of the Jedi and when this film comes out. Some actually had surpassed that and gone past it. In that timeline, Luke was married to a Sith Lord. She was the hand of the Emperor. Her name was Mara Jade. They had a child. Han and Leia had 3 children. They didn't just have one child. And you're talking 30 years of writing and characters and things that the Star Wars fans deeply loved, and they just erased it and threw it away. So so it was a little bit disappointing for that reason.
Now,
everybody did want to see that redhead Mara Jade, though. Everybody,
right?
Even in the comics, Mara was a badass, and she just it's as if someone went into a timeline and killed her as a baby or something, or killed her mother or something, because she didn't even exist.
Now, Dirk, you said that you kind of looked at Sean a little quizzically when he said he enjoyed the fact that Jar Jar Binks wasn't in there. Are you a Jar Jar fan? What was that look about?
Well, actually, I was more quizzically about the shout out fanfic because I'm a fanfic writer.
Well, I know, but what I'm saying is theoretically, if they're expecting to make these billions of dollars, I'm sure a fanfic person wouldn't be too upset if you were like, "Hey, I'm going to give you 10% cut of this." That's what I would reasonably think, because there's a lot. We live in a litigious society, and if somebody was like, "Hey, wait, that's my story," they may sue. You know what I'm saying? So maybe
but they would just go to
people are like, "Hey, we have
what would be the difference of just going to the guy? If Paramount came to me and said, "We love your Star Trek Audacious, and we want to make something out of it," you're not going to really make much. We'll give you a fraction,
right?
And credits. I'd piss myself. So I don't. If it's just a matter of them going to the fan, if the fan wrote something, I don't think there'd be a problem. Jar Jar Binks, I'm just sick of people hating on his character so much where it's like, I look like an idiot defending him because I wouldn't prefer him, but to me he wasn't so detestable to me though he ruined the story or some shit like that. He was just really goofy comic relief. It's just like they hate the guy so damn much that they almost put the actor out of business and almost made him commit suicide.
So it's one of those situations where it's popular in the Star Wars community to hate this character, so everybody hates him.
And that's one thing. I don't want to say that I hated Jar Jar. It was just a bad joke. Jar Jar's not my favorite character. I wish they would have focused more on Qui-Gon Jinn and Darth Maul in the film.
Hated that they killed Qui-Gon.
Right.
When we met him. There's so much story.
And Darth Maul. They killed Darth Maul when we met him too. You know, that's what a lot of people don't. I mean, now we know that he survived, but the thing is the two most interesting characters in the Phantom Menace both die at the end of the film, and you're just like, what the fuck?
But that's their history. They killed Boba Fett.
Right,
He's
they
just
killed
a
Obi-Wan. Yeah, that's just kind of what Star Wars does.
Yeah,
True.
Game of Thronesy kind of shit.
So we have an 80% and a 60% rating.
Yeah.
An 80 and a 60. It looks like Duck is being nice and Sean's being extremely harsh, but we'll go ahead and move on to
wait till the next film.
We'll go ahead and move on to The Last Jedi, and apparently Sean's going to go in on it. So here we go. Without further ado, The Last Jedi.
When I found you, I saw raw, untamed power. And beyond that, something truly special.
Something inside me has always been there. But now it's awake. And I need help.
I've seen this raw strength only once before. It didn't scare me enough then. It does now.
Let the past die. Kill it. If you have to. That's the only way to become what you were meant to be.
We are the spark that'll light the fire that'll burn the First Order down. Come on! This is not going to go the way you think. Fulfill your destiny.
I need someone to show me my place in all this.
Okay, so with that being said, the budget remains relatively the same between $200 and $317 million, but the box office drops drastically, Sean. I mean, once again, still $1.33 billion, but it does drop drastically. As far as, let me look here, 89% of audience members from surveys have said that it was a positive, but they, a lot of them gave it a 5-star rating. Rotten Tomatoes, though, only has it 43%. So it seems like it's relatively divided the Star Wars fan base. We'll start with you, Doug. What were your thoughts on The Last Jedi?
This one's hard for me to...
Hold up, I feel like I've got two negative reviews.
Do I bullshit like I did last time and give it like an 80 again? And, do I try to be truthful?
I mean, definitely talk through it. Let me know what you liked. Let me know what you disliked, because it seems like it's definitely divided the fan base. Rotten Tomatoes has where, you can go on and vote about these fans, have it at 43%. But some people apparently had it as much as a 90% and gave it a 5 out of 5-star review. So it seems like it's divided the fan base here.
Okay, and this is the one where Luke is done, and this is the one where he fights Kylo, or is this the one? We finally made it to the one where Kylo and Oh, I keep forgetting her name. She's like the next
Rey.
Luke. So
Yeah, this is when Kylo and Rey are fighting against Snoke.
yeah, I'm sorry. Yeah, it just seems like they try to put everything. They tried to Game of Thrones again. I hate to keep using Game of Thrones, but they just try to put everything, finish everything, clean everything up, get everything, it just felt like the way they tried to finish off Game of Thrones, they just sort of try to give everything a neat ending, and it wasn't, it just put up a lot of more questions for me. So
well, that's actually interesting because while I was watching this one, I was like, man, these things seem like they're going in a more of a Lord of the Rings direction. Like you've got people freaking on these epic quests and stuff is what it feels like every single time I'm watching the newer trailers. Of course, I, once again, haven't seen these films, but it's interesting you bring up Game of Thrones. Definitely could see some elements of that, some of that. I'm going to call it booking, but storytelling.
But what I mean by Game of Thrones is the ending of Game of Thrones, they just patched it up with things that didn't make sense. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
But that's what I mean. It's like, okay, like the guy who took over Westeros is like, well, wait, what? This guy's going to do it now? It just left like they were just trying to pull it out of their asses. Like, okay, right. And this guy
we've got to have
we've
got to have a finish for this movie. What can I come up with?
Exactly. Continuity, like in Game of Thrones, the Queen of Dragons just like wasn't herself. She was almost like the Martin Luther King, of, like freedom and, like she was quite harsh on people that had slaves and all, and
right.
People getting, she sort of like protected the innocent and the poor, and then she turned into this monster bitch, it's like kind of like, wait. Well, I felt sort of that with this, the history of that damn chick's name, Anyway, she turned
Rey.
into
Her name was Rey. Rey.
Yeah. She was I was on the fence about her history. Well, she turned out to be Palpatine. Whoops, another game. Another spoiler, but yeah, it just sort of like some of the stuff, the way they brought Palpatine back, it just seemed like they were sort of like they were just in the room, just how to bring, we should bring Palpatine back and make rent, that this guy's just getting high and drinking a Heineken, sort of just came up with this kind of crazy ending.
Kind of, they threw the spaghetti at the wall and saw what stuck. Kind of like they threw the spaghetti at the wall and saw what stuck.
Yeah.
Okay.
What would it felt that way for me?
So you don't have to put a number on it if you don't think you can, but would you say?
I'm sorry. Okay.
We said 80
my live number is 80, and my honest number is 60.
60. Okay. Sean?
Okay, so I thoroughly enjoyed this movie. I would actually rate this movie as high as an 85 to a 90. Yes.
Oh,
yes.
shit.
And there are specific reasons why. Now, J.J. Abrams, I thought, did an okay job in the first film when he was directing. This was a different director, and he took the film in a different direction altogether, and he changed a lot of the things. It didn't make sense, but visually, this movie was better. Okay? The cinematography in this movie far superior than the first of the prequels. One of the best visual films that I've ever seen in my life. I loved all the special effects. I loved how everything was set up. The cinematography was excellent. There were certain parts of this story that, cracked me up because the writing was so bad. Like in the beginning when Poe is leading, the resistance with a bunch of bombers against, the First Order, and everything fucks up. Everybody dies. And it's like, oh, well, he's a double agent. That's my joke about the whole thing. I always thought he was a double agent all along, and I thought he was just trying to sabotage everything. And it looked like he was going along with what I was, my theory. Of course, that didn't pan out, but it was still funny to watch it. But the scenes with Luke, especially, Now, so many fanboys out there just like, that's not the way Luke Skywalker was. Luke Skywalker was a hero. He wouldn't have acted like that. And I say bullshit. And this is why. Luke was a whiny, he was a whiny, childish, uneducated brat.
At the beginning?
In the beginning, yes. But people really don't change their fundamental characteristics. And he only followed the example that he was given. Think about this. When things got hard for Obi-Wan.
What people do you mean? What do you mean people like everybody?
No, this is what I'm getting to. When things got hard for Yoda and Obi-Wan Kenobi, what did they do? They went into exile, right? So he just followed suit. He just did what he had learned from his masters. I'm going to go into exile just like they did. And then he's there by himself alone. So, of course, he's going to regress back to his own characteristics because he's not around anybody else.
You skipped.
Before
he went into exile, he tried to bring the Jedis back single-handedly.
No, he did try to bring
south when he went into exile.
Yes, I know that. That's what I'm saying. Okay.
But
the part about him trying. Yeah.
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Well, I mean, yes, he tried to create a new Jedi Order and failed, right? So just like when Yoda failed to kill Palpatine, just like when Obi-Wan failed in his mission, they went into exile. So he went into exile. He just followed their example. So I didn't have a problem with that at all. With his bad attitude that he had as far as training Rey and saying, well, I want the Jedi to die and I want this to be the end of it. I didn't have a problem with that. I thought that was in characteristic with his character being away. I mean, he's been away from everyone for about 25 years, right? So he's been in solitude by himself. He's going to fall back to his old ways. That makes sense to me in a psychological, point of view. And then when you look at the ending, or I'm sorry, not the ending, but when Yoda shows up. Now, that was my favorite part of this film. Yoda comes back, and there he is with Luke, and it felt like I was watching The Empire Strikes Back again for the first time, that nostalgic feeling of being a little kid. And I absolutely loved that entire sequence. That made the entire film for me. And then when we move all the way to the fight between Snoke and Rey and Kylo Ren, I thought that was a good development for the character of Kylo Ren. Kylo Ren started becoming my favorite character at that point because he's so conflicted. He's trying to do the right thing, but he also wants to take over the First Order at the same time. So that was very interesting as far as building his character.
I got to speak some here.
Okay.
I've been letting you go, and some of this stuff is killing me. Okay, when Yoda and Ben Kenobi went in, it wasn't just Yoda went in exile. Ben Kenobi went in because of order. The order, I mean, they were being hunted. It was different from Luke. Luke went into exile because he actually it was self-imposed exile like Yoda. Okay, those two, okay. Ben Kenobi, I don't agree with. And not to mention, if he was following suit, well, then when the kid went to Ben Kenobi to fight again, Ben went back into action. Rey couldn't get Luke to go back into action. But I guess for me reading the books, it didn't seem as clean cut as Ben went in exile because he was sort of pouty as Luke.
No,
was.
I'm not saying that they were pouty or feeling sorry for themselves at all. I'm just saying they went into exile. So when Luke Skywalker fails creating the new Jedi Order, the only example that he really has to face failure is what Ben and Yoda do. They go into exile.
Ben thought all Jedis were dead. Remember? Wasn't Ben under the impression that the Jedis were done?
Yes, but again, I'm just saying that, well, I mean, it's kind of self-imposed exile. He goes to protect Luke on Tatooine, right? So he has a mission that he's going to accomplish there. He's in a self-imposed exile on Tatooine. He can't leave Luke, right? So again, I think that's why Luke separates himself, because he followed the example of Yoda and Ben Kenobi, because he didn't have anyone else to really talk to. It's not like, they don't talk about Ben coming to him and being like, Luke, just try again. That didn't happen. So towards the end, there's the final showdown between Kylo Ren and Luke Skywalker. And this was my second favorite part about this. All the cinematography, all the scenes, the way it played out, the big reveal at the end, I thought was brilliant. And then when you look at Luke Skywalker's final moments on film, one of my favorite scenes, one of my absolute favorite scenes, because I think
Rob Hamill hated that, and I hated it too.
I loved it.
Rob Hamill was, I mean, not Rob, Mark anyway,
Hamill. Right.
He said that they could have done much better. They could have. He offered. He came up with how they could do much better.
And they could
so
have.
So hot in the ass to bring this new generation. They just passed up on something that, just like they passed up on all the good stories from the books.
Right.
Same thing with this. And Mark Hamill was disgusted. He doesn't even want anything to do it anymore. And that's where I agree with. It was hard for me to just let Luke go out that way.
And see, I would disagree wholeheartedly. I would say yes, Mark Hamill was upset about what was going on. I do get that. Again, Lando was not in this film, and there was a definite point where Lando should have been in this film. In the casino scene, that's where Lando should have been reintroduced, and they didn't do that. So I was kind of pissed off about that. But Luke's death was meaningful, and Luke's death, just the way it was, the way it was filmed was beautiful. The way he faded away and that cloak just kind of went away. I thought, man, that's amazing. I loved how they filmed that. Now, could it have been a different story? Yeah, they could have done a different story. They could have done a better story. But that's the story we have. So that's why I liked it.
Well, you're entitled to your opinion, but then maybe they should have did something with him in the previous.
They could have, yeah.
But maybe they should have did something with him in the previous, or at least put more of his story at the in the middle or something like that. But to finally come up with that, just the brief, and then let him go out. At least Qui-Gon Jinn was in the movie most of the movie, or at least halfway through the movie. That was the part. Obi-Wan Kenobi, when he died, he was in. He was in at least most of the movie. When Luke died, he was not, and that's the part. That's what he's iconic, man. And you're basically talking about how we went out. I'm like, okay, I can go with that, the way he went out. But my point is, it was hard. It's just like seeing Picard die or something. When they killed Picard off at the spoiler. Anyway, so when Picard finally, spoiler alert, when Picard finally does die, he's in most of the series. The series is named after him. To me, it was like it would have been rough to continue that if they hadn't done what they did.
But we do know that the direction of these films was to introduce a whole new cast of characters and promote those characters, which failed miserably. The entire reason why these sequels were made were to introduce Rey and Finn and Poe as the next generation of Star Wars heroes.
And they didn't do it. Why do you think?
That's what I'm saying.
What's his name? Doesn't he want it? The black one.
Yes.
Anyway, he doesn't even want him and the Asian chick have been screaming about the characters being. They claimed that, but that's not how it played out.
No,
they claimed that they wanted to introduce new blood, but they didn't utilize it. They were just minorities in the background again.
And that's what I was trying to get to and say is that they tried to build these core characters in the first sequel film. And then the second one came along. They really worked on building Rey, trying to develop her character, and Kylo. Now, what I expected in that third film was a continuation of Poe and Finn and their story and making them. And they did work on Poe a bit, but it didn't matter what he did in that film because it was kind of dumb how they did it. Finn, they just forgot about altogether. Finn became a secondary character, just like you said. And the Asian girl that was in the second, she was predominantly in the second film, they just erased her altogether too. So that was really sad, as well. So again, for obvious reasons, this is my favorite of the three.
Okay.
Well, You said all that, but you still didn't explain why they. You kind of contradicted yourself, in my opinion. You basically said, well, they didn't go into Luke Skywalker, the old characters, because they wanted to focus on the new. But they didn't do the new. They didn't focus on it. They didn't flesh out the new. So that's a contradiction. It's like, this still isn't an excuse why they did Luke.
They did focus on Rey. This was supposed to be Rey's
throughout
story.
The entire series, man. Come on. My point, you can't have it both ways. You can't say, well, they didn't do that much with Luke because they wanted to focus on the new character. You said plural. You didn't say character. You didn't say character, Rey. You said characters. And the new characters were not utilized. The actors would discuss it and want to walk away. So if that happened,
did. Okay, so if you watch this
film,
if
that happened, then what's the excuse for them doing what they did with Luke?
So again, they focused on Rey and Kylo. They focused on Finn and the Asian girl. I forget her name. Okay, but that was the majority of the story because
they didn't focus on the Asian girl.
They focused on Finn and the Asian girl on the planet that had the casino. That was their part of the story, while Rey was training with Luke.
That wasn't focusing on the Asian girl.
She was a huge part of that story. But she was a huge part of that story. Now, I'm not saying they developed her very well. I'm just saying she was a huge part. Poe was completely ignored except for the beginning and the end of the film, right? There wasn't a lot of character development at all with Poe, except that he was fighting with Leia and the other people trying to take over. But there was no real character development, just like with the Asian lady. Now, Finn, his character grew just a bit. You got to see him get away from the First Order. He's doing his own thing. He's trying to be, a leader and a hero, and you're rooting for the guy. But the story just fizzled out as far as that goes. Yes.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I mean, it was so much story in the former Stormtrooper that so much potential. But since they didn't follow it, then they have no excuse for just finally doing this cool ending, but barely maybe 30 minutes of not even 30 minutes. Maybe maybe 20 minutes of screen time with Luke. They did give him a good, cool ending and all that stuff, and it was cool, the fight and all that. That was awesome. But this guy Luke has been throughout the entire series, man. It's basically it could have been called Luke Wars.
But Luke had 3 films. I mean, he was the hero at Return of the Jedi. We didn't need to see Luke be a hero again. He was already a hero. He is a hero to the entire galaxy. You know what I'm saying? So at the end of this film, when he sacrifices his life, he's still a hero. It's just, he didn't have this big duel with Kylo Ren. Now, what kind of film would it have been if
all of them? The prequel, all of them.
Luke was only in Star Wars Empire Strikes Back, Return of the Jedi.
I think you're right. Yeah.
Yeah, Luke was born
thinking of Vader.
at the end of Revenge of the Sith. So, but now if Kylo Ren had cut him down and murdered him, well, nobody would have been happy with that, right?
That's the option?
That probably would have been the option when you look at it, because Kylo Ren, his character had to develop and move on. You see the pattern. Han died. Well, Luke's got to die. Leia dies. I mean, the only person that survives to the end of these sequels are 2 characters, Wedge Antilles and
Chewbacca.
3. Well, and the droids. Gosh, okay, so there's a lot that actually make it. But like Billy D. Williams, Lando Calrissian, Wedge Antilles, C-3PO, R2-D2, Chewbacca. So you had those characters that actually made it all the way through. But your 3 main characters, Luke, Leia, and Han, they die. I don't know if Carrie Fisher would have died in the last film had she not died in real life, though. That's something that can always be questioned. And J.J. Abrams went back to redirect the 3rd film. So that's why there's a lot of continuity issues and everything as far as his film, the 1st and the 3rd with the 2nd, because he just should have directed the 2nd film. I think it would have been better.
Well, all those deaths that you're talking about are inconsequential to me, because the only one that wanted to die was freaking Harrison Ford. Since Empire Strikes Back, he was begging for it, and then they wouldn't let him. You know, all the other ones are just sort of like oopsie. You know,
well, I mean, Harrison Ford was the biggest star to come out of this franchise. You know, I mean, he went on to become like the A-list star of all of them. I mean, until these sequels came out, Mark Hamill, he always worked, and he was always known as that guy that played Luke, but he didn't have the star status that he has today. Now he is an A-lister, you know, but he had gone down a bit. He was a voice actor for a very long time, very well respected.
As a matter of fact, they utilized his accident because he messed up his face. And then in the movie that you love so much, that's when he was serious. That's when he was supposed to have grown up. His voice was deeper. He was calmer. So they basically used that accident that he had in real life that messed his face up and everything. And they just basically, you know, like they did with Leia. Oh, she died? Well, okay, let's just write, you know, they worked it into the story. That's what I mean by inconsequential. Luke's character did make a progress and a change, and he was way more rational when he showed up in black, and he was calm and more calculating. He wasn't the broody guy or whatever. And you're saying that, and I'm like, no, he wasn't. It was after he started a new academy, and it all went to shit. Because then,
that's exactly what I said.
Movie, he was actually quite calm. He did change. It was after everything, just, you know, after his third try is when the self-exile and all that stuff.
Yeah, that's kind of how I said, yeah.
Oh, okay. I thought you meant that, you know, what he did was matching, because you were referring to it when he was earlier, when he was pouty and he wasn't as rational. And I'm like, well, but he did go out there. You said people don't change. I'm like, but he did. He changed, and it was a great change, because they worked, you know, even his face had changed. He looked more aged, and he did look, you know, when he was all in black in the Strike Back. You know, that was my thing. I thought that he did change in a major way, even started his own academy.
Right.
And I just wish, you know what? Maybe it's just I'm pissed off about the Jade story. And you guys mentioned it, and that one does hit me hard, because I just felt that was a huge thing that could have at least given him more screen time, or explained his story of his progression toward him finally being faded out, you know?
Right.
And I think that if they had went into his family or whatever, it just seemed like they got rid of all the Skywalkers on purpose. And the only Skywalker that's left isn't really a Skywalker, it's a Palpatine. So, to me, loving something for decades, it's hard to just let go with, okay, well, everybody dies. You know? Right. They didn't bring his wife, they didn't bring his kid, and that would have been some excellent storyline stuff. So maybe that's it. Maybe I needed more closure with that.
You become attached to these characters, and you grow to love these characters. So yeah, absolutely. By this point, yeah, you're gonna be upset when they do die.
Well, no, Duck makes a great point for someone like yourself, Mike, who has not seen a lot of these movies. Okay, guilty. And I did reference this earlier, that there were 30 years of novels, starting with The Heir to the Empire. Okay. And that was Luke Skywalker, Han Solo, Princess Leia, Chewbacca, Lando Calrissian. That was all these core characters growing and developing.
Well, they grew up. Died.
Yeah, they grew up. They had children. Their children grew up. You know, and we who were fans of these original movies, we love these characters, and we love the side characters. You know, Lando Calrissian. You know, he was married. He had children. Han, Leia, you know, they had the 3 children.
Right.
There was let's see, gosh, now I can't remember their names. Boba Fett, he ends up helping one of Han's children kill one of his other children, you know, in one of the books, because he becomes basically he becomes the Mandalore, you know, in these series of books, and they fight this enemy called the Yazan Vaughn.
Yazan Vaughn, I love those guys.
they invade the galaxy. So the Empire is working with the rebellion, or the Alliance, I guess you could say. And there's a 3-front battle going on between all of them. And it's just, 30 years of history just thrown down the toilet. And it's just heartbreaking.
Yuzong not being well, they could probably still go. They could bring the Yuzong in. Yeah, they could still do that.
They could. They have reintroduced Admiral Thrawn into the Star Wars canon, which is he's one of my favorite characters. I think he is amazing. Yeah.
Well, gentlemen, before we move on to the final film here, we're at halftime, and y'all argued for a little bit on that last one,
right?
But we'll go ahead and take a quick. We'll go ahead and take a quick commercial break, and we'll be right back with the final film. Then we're going to talk about some of the video games and the books and comics, and we're going to talk about some of the spoofs. This is how I know Star Wars is from the Family Guy spoofs. So we'll be right back with more of the Shenanigans podcast right after this. Each and every Monday night at 7 p.m. Central Standard Time, join Money Mike, Tropic Thunder, Fox, the Manic Hispanic, and of course the pretty boy Sean for the American Idiots Podcast, a look at the most divisive headlines in our country, and we present all sides of the argument. It's the American Idiots Podcast live on Facebook and YouTube at the American Idiots Podcast pages and on Talk Radio 49. Each and every Tuesday night, join Michael Carnahan and Lisa O'Brien at 8 p.m. Central Standard Time for the Clear and Convincing Podcast, where they look at the most important cases in our country's history, not from the court of public opinion, but from the court's perspective. It's the Clear and Convincing Podcast right here on Facebook Live and YouTube Live, along with Talk Radio 49. Each and every Sunday, join Duck, Michael Carnahan, and the pretty boy Sean Castleberry as they give you your weekly wrap-up in all things entertainment and conspiracy. It's the Shenanigans Podcast right here on Facebook Live, YouTube Live, and Talk Radio 49.
It's a great time to be a Star Trek fan. Star Trek Discovery, Star Trek Picard, and now the fan fiction Star Trek graphic novel, Star Trek Audacious. Join us in the Star Trek Audacious podcast to discuss the book and even add your ideas to upcoming issues. Star Trek Audacious, for the fans, and by the fans. Come join us. Michael Carnahan, please begin.
Shenaniganz Podcast.
Back, ladies and gentlemen, with the Shenaniganz Podcast. We're live right here as we are doing our Star Wars retrospective. Somehow you two switched positions during our commercial break, and I want to know how the hell that happened. Creepy. Yeah, originally you were in the bottom, Sean, and Duck was up here by me.
Well, we all know you're a power bottom, Michael.
We're moving it back. This is crazy and kind of creepy. I'm only slightly creeped out, but we'll move on to the final film here of the Star Wars franchise, or the final film that we've gotten so far. I'm not sure if it is the final film, but we will watch the trailer and give our thoughts.
An instinct. A feeling. The Force brought us together. We're not alone. Good people will fight if we lead them.
People keep telling me they know me. No one does.
I do.
Long have I waited. And now you're coming together. Is your undoing.
What are you doing there, 3PO?
Taking one last look, sir. At my friends.
Confronting fear is the destiny of a Jedi. Your destiny. The Force will be with you.
Always.
Okay, y'all. So here's what I'm going to tell you. I'll give my thoughts on what I saw there and what have you, and then we'll release it to you guys to just completely destroy each other. But the budget was $275 million. The box office was once again down to only $1.074 billion. Of course, still a fucking crazy money-making enterprise. The audience on CinemaScore gave the grade an average of a B, the lowest among the live-action films. And apparently on something called Post-Track audiences gave the film an average 4 out of 5 stars, with 70% saying they would definitely recommend it. As far as what I caught there from the trailer, I'll say that it leads me to believe it's a feel-good kind of passing of the torch film. It seems like a lot of the original characters may have died just based upon the film or the trailer I'm seeing. So it seems like a passing of the torch. Maybe there at the end was going to be the lead character going forward. Hell if I fucking know. But that's what I got from it. Overall, a positive review. We'll start with you this time, Sean.
So this is probably my least favorite of the three. And the main reason is that they just erased everything that they had built up to for all the characters at this point. And it was just very disappointing. There's like an interesting thing that happens with C-3PO. They erase his memory and then he gets it back. So it's like this whole dramatic scene where he says goodbye to everybody.
Yeah,
and
I'm taking a last look at my
friends. Completely meaningless. That was just there. Yeah, that entire scene is just meaningless because he gets all his memories back from R2. So yeah, that sucked. Let's see. They completely ignore Finn, Poe, the Asian from the last movie. Rey is revealed to be a Palpatine because the Emperor comes back, which, you know, they could have done that in so many different ways. Like what we were saying before, as far as the other enemy that could have came in. But I mean, at this point, I just think most people were just tired. They were tired of the disappointment of the entire series, and then we get this, and you're just kind of like,
that, but it got a positive review.
Well, it did for a lot of people, but I mean, for me, I just didn't care. You know, I watched this film. I didn't care who lived. I didn't care who died. I had no investment in any character there except for one. And now I wanted to see Lando Calrissian, and they gave him a little bit of screen time. And then at the end, you know, his story gets to continue, which I'm happy about. But, you know, besides that, I honestly didn't care. You know, and that's the thing about film for me is I want to be emotionally invested in the characters. I want to care about them. And I didn't about any of them, you know, even Kylo Ren at the end, who had been one of my favorite characters. I was just like, meh.
So out of 100, what would you give this one?
Back down to 50.
Back down to 50? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Duck, what did you think of this film?
30.
30? Oh, shit.
No, I thought this was one of your favorites.
That's why we were. I realized our discussion from the last one.
Yeah.
Yeah. We were discussing this one actually. It was the last one that I liked better, and this one I got my order all messed up. That's why we were discussing when the last one we were actually just there's events that happened in this one that we were discussing. So we got mixed up. And well, at least I did. So
this one isn't as divisive for this one isn't as divisive for you guys. You guys both pretty much paying this one as a crappy movie.
Well, it's just that I still don't know. I mean, I guess maybe this was the first Star Wars movie that left me a little confused in some points. Like I was like, okay, wait a minute. Like Nutty Professor, was that supposed to happen? Like, is Kylo dead? I'm like, okay, he came back, he helped, he died. She couldn't bring him back. Well, huh? So yeah, I got a little twisted with that.
Right.
The whole Palpatine legacy was pretty cool for what happened, but
right.
It was used for a cool. Luke, I am your father. So
right.
I get that.
Right.
I wasn't too thrilled about the explanation of how they brought Palpatine. But then it still clicked enough. Clones. I'm like, okay, well, these clones are everywhere. But anyway, I became almost exactly what Sean said. I started to not care, and my thing was what they promised to do with Finn and flesh him out, and they actually did. but they cut it out. To where he was like, well, I want to tell you something before, and then, but when they interview Boyega, I forgot the guy's name, but they interviewed Finn. That's his character name. They promised to do more with Finn and the Asian chick, Okay. And so, but it just turned out that they were nothing but Billy D. Williams. They were nothing but, Billy D. Williams, Caribbean had something to do with the series, but if he never existed, they could have made it work easy. Okay. Same thing with Finn and the Asian, it's like, they could have, it would just been the Asian's sister that died or whatever, and you would never even know about her. Same thing with Finn, and just they weren't. So they turned out to be inconsequential, just like every other minority in the show. And so people like me that we don't have any black heroes, people are like, what's the big deal? Black or white? I'm like, well, fuck. When everything is a certain way, you want to see, us represent. I want to see a fucking hero, that's dire to the story, dude. That can be Asian or black or Mexican. I want to see that. We want to be heroes too.
There's this really bad thing going on in fandom right now, in movies and comics and games even, where they're trying to promote more black heroes, transgender heroes, different, female leads and stuff like that. Well, the fanboys, and I hate to say this, fanboys of science fiction and video games, especially video games, it's a very misogynic and a very almost white supremacist group. They don't want this happening. They actually call the people that support this social justice warriors, and you'll see the SWJ on different posts and stuff, Facebook, Twitter, different things like that. So that a lot of that was going on when the Star Wars franchise was coming out. And they were just like, oh, the social justice warriors have taken over. They put a Mary Sue in there, and they accused J.J. Abrams and the writers of creating this super character, this Mary Sue, and putting minorities in there when the original trilogy didn't have minorities and all this and that. It's just like, what? It's a fucking story. Let people tell their fucking story. And if I don't care who they put in there, I mean, Rey could have been black, and I would have been happy with that. I think that would have been breathtaking, genre breaking, everything. It just would have been great, but they didn't. They chose to go the direction that they did, and people still bitched. You're not going to make everybody happy.
But nothing changed. You just brought up a point, but then you failed in the end because to me, it's not. Of course, you're still not happy, but it didn't happen. Just because you flash a token like South Park and call them token doesn't mean we're being represented. Come on, man. No, that's not cool. No,
I do understand that.
Yeah, it's not about, hey, they're still not happy because we still weren't represented. Even I've never seen.
No. I'm not saying that I'm not saying that the minorities aren't happy. I'm saying that these fanboys that got angry about it, they're the ones. I don't give a shit if they're happy or not. And when I made that statement, well, you can't make everyone happy. That's what I meant in that. I wasn't talking about, minorities saying it that way. So maybe I misspoke how I was trying to convey that. But the rabid, and I call them rabid fanboys, the rabid fanboys that don't want to see women, don't want to see minorities. They just want to see, these white archetype, heroes in everything. Fuck them. They're just stupid.
It's like even when they give us something, it gets so watered down or changed or whatever. I'm not a big fan of the Arrow series. And just last week, I got to see an episode, and my jaw hit the floor because I'm a comic book guy. And there's a guy named Mr. Terrific in the show, and I was like, oh,
right,
Mr. Terrific. And it's this black hero, but I didn't even know who he was. They watered him down. They watered down his powers. They made him gay. And I'm like, okay, you can't say I'm not for all the gay characters and all this stuff. But I'm like, well, dang, how many black heroes do you see on the Arrow TV show? You know,
Right.
And then it's but this one's got to go that much forward. They got to make them black. They got to make them black. They got to make them gay.
I blame the CW. I blame the CW for that, because the CW is the one that does the Arrowverse, which with all the Arrow superhero shows, Supergirl, Arrow, the Legion of Superheroes, and it's basically like watching Beverly Hills 90210 in the DC universe. It's just a soap opera, and some of the characters happen to have superpowers, and some of the episodes can be okay, but for the most part, it's just soap opera drama, and it's really boring. So I don't like the CW universe at all. I've watched a few episodes. I did in fact watch the entire first season of Arrow, and it wore me down. So I tried The Flash, and it was the same thing, and I just gave up on all of it. Yeah, if it's on the CW, I'm not going to watch it.
Well, The Flash got me. The Flash. I think they did better on this Flash than all the other ones.
Yeah.
And this one, The Flash was actually was a decent soap opera for superheroes, but I just couldn't get into the Arrow one. But my point is, some of these there's opportunities they have, the opportunities they have to represent more folks, don't turn out. It's sort of like bends my brain a little bit, because they had the opportunity to make Flynn a crazy cool character, man. Wow. Yeah. A ex-stormtrooper. Are you kidding me? I mean, there was so much, and then they were implying that he was force sensitive. And I'm like, well, why didn't they expand just a little bit more with that, man? I mean, he became the comic relief. He became Jar Jar Binks. There it is.
And I blame the Chinese market for a lot of this too, because films aren't made for Americans anymore. Okay, as far as for ratings, as far as for money and stuff, the Chinese market is so huge. They put in so many special effects and explosions and all these different things for the Chinese film industry, to get their major sales over there. And we end up losing a lot of story because of that in a lot of films. So yeah, Transformers, that entire franchise is a great example to look at the stories, how bad they are, how bad the characterizations are, how bad the special effects are. That was completely made for the Chinese market.
Right.
That makes sense. I never went down that corridor before, but I have to admit that that would be something I want to think over, because that's I guess that's my biggest beef. They turned Finn and Jar into Jar Jar Binks, and they turned the Asian girl, and basically, put it this way, a lot of people like me, at least I would be able to remember Jar Jar Binks' name. A lot of people, not just me, can't remember the Asian girl, Asian character's name.
I don't remember
because she just blended into the background.
Yeah, she was a secondary character in that third film. Yeah.
Yeah.
We're gonna have to kind of speed through these next topics. We got about 47 minutes left.
Okay.
But we'll go ahead and get through as much of it as we can. Made-for-TV movies. I do see it looks like 2 or 3 that were actually made-for-TV movies that I'm actually seeing.
2.
The first one was the Star Wars Holiday Special in 1978.
No. That's not a movie. Yeah, so
it's produced for TV.
Well, yeah, it was produced for television, but it wasn't a movie. It was a gosh, how do you explain this? Back in the 70s, they had variety shows. Okay, where stars would come on and they would sing songs and different stuff like that. So that wasn't a movie. There were some filmed parts that they had taken from Star Wars and put into it. But basically, it was a giant disaster that they just threw out there for Christmas. And it had Diane Carroll, it had B. Arthur, it had Art Bell. And, B. Arthur, yes. And
the bartender.
Yeah, and you had a whole bunch of the Star Wars characters: Han Solo, Luke Skywalker, Princess Leia, R2-D2, C-3PO, Chewbacca. And the story was that Han has to get Chewie to his family on Life Day, and the Empire's after him. And the best part about the Star Wars special was that it introduced Boba Fett in a cartoon short. So you actually got to see who Boba Fett was. Besides that, it was complete garbage. Even George Lucas didn't want it ever shown again. And
he tried to get rid of it. He tried to eliminate it.
And where he messed up, he gave Carrie Fisher a copy, and I think she is the main reason why it has been distributed throughout the entire world. Yeah.
Well, we also have the Ewok Adventure and Ewoks: The Battle of Endor.
Right.
And, you know, for the most part, all of this has been panned. 29% reviewed on a 29% score for Star Wars Holiday Special, a 23% for the Ewok Adventure.
Right.
And Ewoks: The Battle of Endor only got 50%.
Right.
So,
I mean,
the most positive was the last one.
Yeah, and you got to think that at this point, the Return of the Jedi, that was released in 1982, and you hadn't had anything, you know, there was no sequel, there was no prequel, it was just those first 3 movies. And then they did these 2 made-for-TV movies, the Ewok movie and the Battle for Endor, and of course, everybody watched it, you know, because, hey, it's fucking Star Wars. But yeah, they were kind of hokey, and the special effects weren't, like, to the same level, and yeah, right. I mean, it was what it was. And then you go on, and there was a Droids cartoon series and an Ewok cartoon series. Now, both of those were actually pretty good. I liked both of those.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, then we have, and I never realized how many fucking video games they made for the Star Wars franchise. We're going to just kind of go through these. You guys can let me know if you played them and what you thought. We started off with Star Wars in arcade. It was also re-released for the Atari 2600, 5200, the Commodore 64, the Atari 8-bit, ColecoVision, BBC Micro, ZX Spectrum, Acorn Electron, Amstrad CPC, Atari ST, Apple II, DOS, Macintosh, and Amiga. Did you guys play that one? What'd you think?
I played the one that was on the Atari. There was an Empire Strikes Back and a Star Wars on both of those. Both were terrible, horrible graphics. You didn't really know what it was, but it said Star Wars, so you had to play it.
Right.
You know, yeah.
I love the Atari one. With are you talking about the one with the AT-ATs?
The walkers? Yes.
Yeah.
Everybody played that. They played the shit out of that. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah, I just get my 25 cent root beer and my 25-cent Snickers bar and camp in front of the TV, the black and white TV, because the kids, we didn't get to play our Atari on the car.
Right,
so the kids got in the house, we got the black and white, and we pretty much wore the words out of "I got next."
Right.
So me and my brothers to play. Sean was lucky; it was just him, so he could probably just camp out. But I had 3 other brothers, so we'd take turns playing that. And I got next. You have to wait your turn and play again. But I played the arcade one where you're going down that chute, the Death Star, and you got the green line.
I think I know what you're talking about, because I think I've seen screenshots of it before. And the whole objective, it's just one level, and the whole objective is to shoot the fucking Death Star.
Yeah, in fact, there's an arcade here in Little Rock, actually North Little Rock, on Keel Avenue. They have one of those.
It's in Sherwood, and I know exactly what you're talking about.
Yes, they have one. In fact, the last time I went there, I played that game. I played the shit out of that game. I love that game.
That place.
Yeah, it's a great place to go. You pay like $10.
I really hope
you can play games all day long. Yeah.
Knock on wood. I hope that they survived COVID. I haven't seen.
Me too. But that game in arcade was epic of my childhood. You just hear, "Here I am."
They would run Donkey Kong, classic Donkey Kong, to teach you how to play it and shit. Like, those people were amazing. And like Sean said, $10 and they won't kick you out. Everything's free play. All you have to do is pay your $10 and you get to play as much as you want.
Yeah, it's a great place to go. Yeah.
Well, back onto the Star Wars one, but that was the one that I remember that was epic. To me, it helped a lot of people get excited about Star Wars because of that game. Was
yeah, because you had the side-scrolling games for the longest time, and those were all based on different episodes or comics, even different things like that. Then when you got into the 3-dimensional, that's when they got elaborate. that's when games really started to take off, and you got characters like Dash Rendar and the Outlander, and then the what are they? You know all this. You're the expert, Donald.
No, yeah, but to me, even when they put Tron, because Star Wars had a Tron kind of look because it was so clunky, and but your good example for what you're talking about with the dimensional games was Tron too. Tron was just epic, yeah.
Well, another one I see here was Star Wars. It was released in 1987 for the Famicom. Do you guys remember playing that?
For the what?
For the Famicom, I guess it was the Japanese version of for the Japanese version of the original Nintendo.
No, we wouldn't have had that.
No.
Okay.
I didn't play it.
What about Star Wars Attack on the Death Star, 1991? It was for PC-9801 and X6 8000.
Yeah, I beat that. Yeah. I loved it. My big clunky computer.
Right. The first one that really I'm recognizing some of these damn system names. Of course, I know Atari, but Star Wars was released in 1991 for the NES, the Game Boy, something called the Master System, and Game Gear. Did you guys play that?
I didn't.
Okay.
No, I skip all the way to the PS2 at this point.
Oh shit!
Well,
let's just go down then.
Not me. On Nintendo, I played.
Yeah, Duck is the gamer expert. Like I said, I'm not a huge gamer, but every now and then I'll pick one up.
I was about to say I know this one was popular. Star Wars Episode 1 Racer.
Yeah.
Did you play that one?
Pod Racer.
Yeah.
I think I saw it. Yeah.
Yeah, that one.
They made an arcade version of that one. You could, in fact, when I was in California, I went to a Dave and Buster's. They had one there.
That one's like a collector's item. I think you still pay like $60 for that damn game. It's 21 years old. And of course, the most recent episode-related game was Star Wars Episode 3: Revenge of the Sith, released on PlayStation 2, Xbox, Nintendo DS, Game Boy Advance, and mobile phone.
Yep. I actually had that one on PS2.
There was some you skipped. I like the fighter games like X-Wing. Commander.
X-Wing is listed. We have X-Wing in 1993 for DOS and Mac. TIE Fighter and Star Wars X-Wing versus TIE Fighter.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, those are awesome.
And then there's some Rebel Assault, some Jedi Knight, Rogue Squadron.
Old Republic.
Knights of the Old Republic. I played
Knights
1
of the Old
and 2.
Republic.
That was when they were starting to get into massive multiplayer.
Right.
They hadn't gotten there yet, but that was the,
I apologize. Go ahead. It looks like there is one planned for 2020. Star Wars Squadron.
Yes, that's already been released.
Also, Star Wars Tales from the Galaxy's Edge for the Oculus Quest. So it looks like they're getting into the immersive technology as well. So
2020, you say?
2020, yes. It looks like it's going to be released before the end of the year for the Oculus. So obviously we can't get into all of these, but I'll let you guys go off for a little bit before we get into the final two subjects, books and comics. We'll start with you, Duck, and then we'll go with you, Sean. Books and comics. What's your thoughts on the books and comics series for Star Wars?
Unfortunately, the books, I'm just not versed in. I like to read the books about the movies, because there's so much left out. Just like the one where you find out that we talked about it before. They make Anakin look like an idiot. They make Palpatine had been working his ways into Anakin ever since Anakin joined the Jedi Order. Ever since he was a kid, and they just sort of made it. Basically Palpatine was Anakin almost like his mentor more than Obi-Wan. It was basically Palpatine that was whispering in his ear, and like, and giving him sort of like, well, the Jedis aren't really what they're cracked out to be, and he basically whisper all kinds of, this venom but in the movies they made it seem like Luke just switched on a dime, like, because he was scared of, Princess Amidala dying, but it was way more intricate, and that's what those are the books I've read. I read those books and a few comics, but the Yuzhan Vong, those are the ones I adored.
Okay.
Right.
Sean?
So yeah, back in the 90s, and this is before Lucas released the special edition Star Wars, which was Star Wars Empire Strikes Back, Return of the Jedi. Kevin J. Anderson came out with the Tron trilogy. It started with Heir to the Empire, and this was a story that took place about 5 years after the destruction of the second Death Star. Luke was going to start a Jedi Academy. Han and Leia were working for the New Republic, rebuilding the government, and all of a sudden, out of nowhere, an enemy shows up with an entire fleet of Imperial Star Destroyers, and it's Grand Admiral Thrawn, and he's a brilliant tactician, and he's the perfect, enemy that they needed at that time. And it was a great series of books, and it went back and forth, and over the next 30 years, this just kept building and building from this one original trilogy that was written by Kevin J. Anderson. An entire generation grew up reading these books and all the stories, watching Luke and Leia grow, their children grow, and Disney buys Lucasfilm and they just say, oh, no, that's not canon anymore. And we're just like, what? No.
Well, that was the one thing Star Wars had over Star Trek. Star Trek has always said the books weren't canon. But Star Wars, there was a lot of books that even went past Lucas that he said, okay, that he gave it 2 thumbs up on.
Yeah.
And
that's a cool thing about
Star Wars
Lucas.
had going for it.
Lucas didn't care if fans made films. Lucas didn't care if fans made comics. He didn't care what direction Marvel went, or Dark Horse, or Kevin J. Anderson, or any of these people.
Canon.
He loved them.
I'm talking about, though.
Right.
That's true. He was true about that's true about him. But what I'm saying is, it being canon was one of the biggest things about the Star Wars books that that I like most, because if you read a Star Trek book, you already know, okay, this is just some guy's what if, it meant more when they were canon. So when they took that away, it was criminal.
I agree with that. It did mean more because you read these books and you were just like, cool. So when the sequels were announced, you thought, and I mean, I did, they're gonna actually go past the books, and we're gonna get to see where these characters are. Their friends have died. Some of their children have died. The Empire has done all the Yuzhan Vong has attacked. And my imagination just went wild. And then when they're just like, yeah, we're not going to use any of that, it was like, what?
Yeah, it never happened. None of it.
Yeah, none of it happened. Yeah.
Right.
I mean, was Kylo Ren even in the books? Was he?
No. In fact, Luke and Leia had 3 children. Okay.
I thought one of them was Kylo.
Jason and Jayla Solo. They were the twins. They had a 3rd child. His name was, I want to say, Anakin. So you had Jason, Jaina, and Anakin, and Luke had a son named Ben with Mara. Right? Yeah. So Jason ended up killing Anakin, and Jaina went after Jason, and that was the conflict that most people thought they were going to see in the film, because it was going to be a solo kid turned to the dark side trying to destroy the New Republic. And, of course, we kind of got that story, but with Kylo Ren, and it was a totally different character. So, yeah, it was what it was.
Uh-oh. We lost Duck.
Uh-oh.
That's not good.
He'll be back.
That's not good. He'll be back, I'm sure. But now we'll get into something I know all too much about, and we've got a
Family
highlight
Guy
film here from
there we go.
Cartoon Yummy TV Anime on YouTube. So I can't wait to watch this highlight film because I love these.
My
God, look at this mess. Hey, Darth Vader's gonna be here. Should we maybe clean the place up? No, it's okay. He won't mind. Hey, where you going?
You can kiss the lower part of the back of the canister that is my body.
Well, I mean, there's this little hole. It was kind of an aesthetic choice by the architect, and if you shoot a laser into this hole, the station blows up.
But I mean, can't we board it up or, put some plywood over it or something?
Well, that would look terrible. I mean, we got to think about resale.
All right, so we're going to plug up that hole?
Yeah, we can get it done tomorrow if price is no object. We'll get estimates.
Get estimates, yeah.
Luke!
What?
Tell Uncle Owen not to tell you that your father is Darth Vader.
Emperor, when are you guys gonna let me join the rebellion like all my friends?
Over my burnt carcass!
Hey, shut up with the noise!
Hey, shut up with the shut up!
You shut up with the shut up!
Shut up in your face! Now am I a dog I wanna shut up?
My God, you shoot small animals for fun? That's the first indicator of a serial killer, you freak.
There's 2 sons and no women. What the hell am I supposed to do?
You owe us after that mess you got into back on Alderaan. And we paid to keep the families of those children quiet, so...
Oh, this is just like logistical stuff. I'll check that later. Luke, wait! It's too dangerous! Get your fat space ass back here.
He doesn't like you.
Sorry.
I don't like you either.
You don't even know me.
You know what? That's fair.
Are you kidding? It's the ship that made the Kessel Run in less than 12 parsecs.
Isn't a parsec a unit of distance, not time?
Wait. Well, what do you think?
What a piece of junk!
Thank you. This was my brother's. He died of leukemia. How do you feel now?
Princess Leia, we've chosen to test our Death Star planet blower-upper gun on your home planet of Alderaan.
No!
She said no. Should we still do it?
Yeah.
You don't believe in the Force, do you?
Oh, you mean that thing you just found out about like 3 hours ago and are now judging me for not believing in it?
Aren't you a little fat to be a stormtrooper?
Well, stay here and rot, you stuck-up bitch.
Oh, boy, great idea, Princess, diving into a pile of garbage. Hey, when we get out of here, maybe you can show me around your home planet of Alderaan. Oh, too soon.
Yeah, you put a little Febreze on that, scrub it out a little bit, look great in your apartment.
You know what? I know we have a dangerous job to do here, but I'm taking this. I'm taking this couch. All right, go. Okay. For Christ, it's wedged. It's wedged. All right, you know what? It's not going anywhere. Let's just take off. We'll deal with it later. All right, you get in the cockpit, and I'll hang on to this thing as we go. Easy.
What part of stay 50 yards away at all times don't you understand?
Obi-Wan!
Boy, you got here just in time.
They're coming too fast!
Nickel for every time I've had that problem. Just keep shooting, Luke!
Fuck you, you son of a bitch! What am I, R2-pack?
I just killed Obi-Wan, and then I look over, and there are these 2 dudes scurrying across with a couch. And it had this stain on it from when we had Hawaiian Punch Night.
Yeah, that's my couch. Rebel scum.
I love that. I love every piece of it.
But you haven't even seen all the movies, so how do you get all the references?
Jokes, but I laugh my ass off at that.
Gotcha. I mean, I honestly can say I haven't seen Blue Harvest. I've
You
never
have
watched
not
it.
seen? Oh my God! What is wrong with you?
Up until I met my wife, I hadn't watched any Family Guy, so she actually got me kind of hooked on it, and I started watching it. I've fallen off, watching.
I'm gonna need you to get on Hulu tonight, sir.
Really?
I need you to start watching Blue. I need you to watch Blue Harvest.
Well, when you finish watching all 9 of the original films, then we can talk. So we do have more films.
So I gotta watch all 9? Holy shit!
Yeah, We do have other films to talk about, though. We didn't even get to those.
We do?
Yeah. We got Rogue One. You've got Solo.
I didn't see him anywhere.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. So yeah, there are 2 films that were made in between all of these sequels. Rogue One, which is probably the second best of all of the films. It's actually really good. Yeah, I said that. And then Solo, that's one of my favorites because it goes into the adventures of a young Han Solo and Lando Calrissian. And I actually enjoyed that one quite a bit. Ron Howard directed that one, in fact.
Now, are you being ballsy enough to make these claims because you know that Duck is having technical difficulties and can't argue with you?
No, I would definitely say that I love Empire Strikes Back and I love Rogue One, second best. And then I'd probably put Solo as third. And then I would go down to the rest of the films that way. But I like the direction that they went with those films. I like the special effects. I like the directors that they picked. They were good films all around. They were solid. And then of course we get into The Mandalorian.
Yes.
Which have you seen any of that?
I have not been able to get in there and watch it yet.
Okay,
I have made a commitment to try.
Jon Favreau, who directed Iron Man.
Dude, Jon Favreau's fucking amazing. He's
a
wonderful actor in and of himself.
He is the showrunner. He has directed episodes. He brought this all about. And when you watch The Mandalorian, for the most part, for most episodes, it feels like that kid watching the original Star Wars as a little kid, And he does such a great job making sure. A couple of the episodes fall short. But as a whole, the series it's amazing.
So, question. Do you or do you not love the Baby Yoda memes?
Oh, of course. Yeah, Baby Yoda's awesome. Yeah, and my daughter has one.
Dude, those fucking memes crack me up. I has chocolate chalky milk and shit like that. Like,
right.
I'm fucking dumbass. That shit cracks me up. Well, here we go. Here's the ultimate question. I'm going to say, just based upon your responses so far on the final 3 films, you're going to say it's just complete garbage. But what's your state of the franchise for the franchise? And is it better with or without?
I don't know. He directed Star Wars. He did not direct Empire Strikes Back or Return of the Jedi. He did direct episodes 1, 2, and 3, which commercially were a success, but a lot of the original fans didn't like it. Especially Attack of the Clones. That's a horrible film. Horrible. You give Lucas money and power over his own creation, it's a dangerous thing because he messes with it too much. As a storyteller, he's amazing. He created a really cool universe. But what Disney has done with his universe, I don't know. Maybe Lucas should come back on board and give them some advice.
Okay. So are you happy with where it is right now, though?
I'm happy with The Mandalorian on Disney Plus. I think that is a really great story in the Star Wars universe. As far as any more films that they're going to make, if they follow suit like they have with standalone films like Solo and Rogue One, yeah, I'd be happy with those. But no more with the Skywalker Legacy, any of that. Just start telling some original stories with some new characters.
Right. And I think that's what it's going to come down to. You can't tell the same story that somebody else made up and make people happy, in my opinion.
Oh, Star Wars will be remade at some point. They will remake the entire thing. Yeah, it's going to happen. Maybe after I'm dead. But, it's just like J.J. Abrams redid Star Trek.
Right.
Yeah, eventually this will get redone, and there will be a whole new generation that'll get to see basically what Lucas's story was going to be.
Everybody's mind in the 70s.
Right. So, yeah, it's going to be remade. Everything gets remade these days.
Right.
Next year, we're supposed to have a new Dune film that comes out, which is going to be, that looks very interesting. In fact, the exit interviews that they have done with people that have actually seen some of the previews of that, preview screenings, they say it's 100 times better than the 1984 version. So, yeah,
We'll see.
Yeah,
We'll see. Well, Sean, we're fixing to get out of here. I think next week we're going to be talking about Waco and the Oklahoma City bombing. And then I want you to stick around after the credits roll here, and we're going to talk about what I think we can do here in 2 weeks if you haven't seen it yet in the Facebook Messenger. So we'll see
you were
guys.
talking about Club 27?
Yeah, the 27 Club. We'll talk about that here in a second, but we'll see you guys next week right back here, same time, same place, for the Shenanigans Podcast.
Michael Carnahan, please begin.